So now comes probably one of my favorite parts of the process, which is gathering and looking through reference material. So I took a whole bunch of photographs for this course of the different materials that we're going to be making, and then I mixed that with stuff that I already had, which included photographs I've taken previously, as well as stuff from books and from the web, and also stuff from film and other 3D artists. Now, I can't show you the reference I'm using for the film stuff or the other artists because of copyright issues, but I can certainly show you my own photographs. So I'm going to quickly run through some of the photographs I'm going to be using for reference. So we have different categories here, and first is the brushed metal section, which you saw this image before. So lots of real neat sort of streaky reflections going on in these objects. This is an elevator. This is a bass drum pedal, and you can see the grain going on in here, which is pretty cool, and how it affects the reflections. So now I have two categories here, metal distressed and metal smooth. The way I like categorizing this is smooth metal I categorize as anything where you can see a clear reflection of yourself in the metal. And distressed metal is anything where that reflection is blurry, either because of grooves in the metal or because of dirt or grime or any number of other things. So I'll go through some of these. Engines are always a good place to get metal, as well as hubcaps. Bicycle parts. This is some stuff from a big truck. This is some piping from our water heater, and this stuff here is a little too extreme as far as metal goes, and as far as like grit and grime and really bumpy. We're probably going to do stuff a little bit more in this vein here. And there's some goldish coppery type metal, like we'll do a few of these I think for the character. And nice grime on the bottom of this this pan here. More engine pieces. This, I really like the way this metal looks up here at this part of this bicycle. So this is going to be a big inspiration for the kind of metals I'll be doing. And then this is the other photograph that I really like the metals that are going on down here, because you have some lighter metals and some darker metals and some that are more reflective and some that are less reflective, and there's a really nice variety going here. So this is going to be a big inspiration for sort of the variety of different metals I want to have near each other on my character. So then we'll go to the smooth section. So again, you can see perfect reflections. This one's kind of cool because you see how dirt sort of cakes onto metal surfaces, and dirt smudges and whatnot. Some more bicycle pieces, and then some truck sides. This is good reference also for the dirt, which is going to be around the nuts and bolts in the character. Okay, let's go to the paint section. So here's some paint, which was on a dumpster, I believe, and you can see little speckles of it are gone, but there's a strong bump and a slight reflectivity to it, but nothing too strong. Then this paint is a little bit more matte, but you can see the really neat patterns going on, like this brushy sort of pattern that's happening. Again, here you can see the reflectivity of the paint. And then this one, of course, is close to the color scheme we'll be using for our trailer. So we'll definitely use this one for reference. And then this one shows a property of a lot of flat objects that we're also going to be including in our shading. So you might think of it, the side of a truck or something, to be a very flat type surface, but in actual fact, if you look at the reflection going on, the reflection of this bridge is really crazily broken up, because when you have a big flat surface, it's actually not as flat as you might initially think. So for both the metals and also the paint materials, I'm going to be adding a very large sort of bump map going on in order to, as well as a smaller, more grainy bump map, in order to get this sort of reflections going on. And you see an example of it here. Like, you might think of these as all being flat, and maybe they are pretty flat, but you see how this reflection here is jumping from pane to pane, and even in a single pane it sort of warps around. And so that's what we're going to be doing to our metal and also the paint. Just a single rust image, just to give some idea of the kind of rust we'll be doing. Then I have a couple of street images. Here's some concrete. And here's a nice one that shows off concrete sidewalk and the gutter and then a road with a line. And here's a close-up of the line, and you can really see how the paint is flaking off in an interesting pattern. And here you really can see it at the crosswalk where people have been walking and cars have been driving. You get a lot of stuff ripped off. And that's the road. Okay, now let's go up to the grime section here. So under dirt, I have a whole lot of dirt images which sort of inspired me. Here's some nice splashed dirt from underneath this vehicle, some drip dirt, lots of little drippy dirt and drippy rust. Here's a nice one because you can really see, if you look carefully here, the way the dirt is a little bit more prominent around the outsides of these edges. And so this edge dirt is something that I definitely want to get on my character. More drippy type stuff. Then here's some nice flat metallic surfaces with a bunch of dirt on them. And this is a real nice edge one here. You can see at this edge where these two objects connect, you get this really nice streak of dirt going on, and that's definitely the kind of thing I want to capture with the dirt in my model. This one's cool too because you can totally see where you can see sort of how this thing works by the residue that it leaves as it does its thing. So as this opens, it scratches this area and leaves some nice markings, and nice markings there too, or where people grab that in order to open up the back of the truck. And here's some nice drips that I really like. And again, dirt around these nuts and bolts. So here's my rust pattern reference, and this is some good spotted rust, and you see many of the spots are towards the edges here. We got some drips going here, and also notice how the rust sort of cakes around where the bolts are that holds it to the pole. And the fire hydrant again. These are some nice sort of scrapes and scratches of rust. Like this here is way too much rust compared to what we're going to use for the mortuary robot, but it's still really good reference to see for scratches and whatnot. Some more drips. Stuff like this, as well as being good for reference, will be good for textures, which we'll do later on. And I love how this one little tiny streak of rust just comes right from that bolt right down the middle of the sign. Some more drips. More drips. Here's some rust bits on paint, similar to the colors of our robot. And I love stuff like this where you see the rust really hugs those edges, and then sort of in the middle flatter areas there's much less rust going on. You can see it over here too. And here's another good example of the same thing. And one final example, this is a dumpster, and notice again how those rust bits are right on the peeling paint around the edges of the dumpster. And then finally I have the wear section, which is where stuff like paint, for example, will chip off a surface. Here's some nice bubbling stuff. This the paint, it wears off, and then everywhere the paint is not is where the rust starts happening. Here's just some slight scratches on a graphic, which we'll do a little of that. Again at the edge, that's another place where wear happens, and the edge here. This is a frying pan, nice sort of gouges and scratches. that takes off the coating to reveal the metal underneath. And this one is a really nice one because it really shows sort of a brighter metal being revealed as the black paint comes off. And since this is pretty close to the color of paint we're going to have on our character, this is a good piece of reference for it. And then a shovel with lots of scratches and worn off paint. And there you go. That is the reference that I'm going to be using. So now that we've looked at all our reference and been inspired by it, let's do our visual details list. So there are 4 basic materials that I'm going to create for the model. There's going to be metal, painted metal, concrete, and asphalt. But each one of these also contains sub-materials. Like, for example, the painted metal will have a paint material, a rust material, dirt on top, and then the metal underneath. So I'll just do the go into more detail on the visual details of the metal here for time purposes, but it's exactly the same process for here and here. So the metal that I looked at in the reference, so there's a lot of different shades of metal. It's usually a gray color and some gold, and there's a slight color variation on its surface. Then metal is reflective with not much diffuse. The metal has some reflections that are very blurry and others are not as blurry. And you can do some nice scratches in metal too. Then there's going to be dirt on top, and that'll appear as drips, edge dirt, smudges, and splashes. The dirt is darkish, desaturated, and has some bump and no specular. And then I'm also going to add a layer of extra grime. And what this is sometimes on like old industrial metals, what you'll get is this really dirty, grimy sort of material on the surface of the metal, and then just at the edges you get revealed the brighter, more reflective metal underneath, and that creates a really nice look to it. So we're going to be doing that. And the extra grime is going to be kind of darkish and not very specular. Although, if you're doing something like this and the extra grime you wanted to make it look like grease, for example, that might be somewhat reflective. But for this, we're just, at least at the moment, I'm not planning to do any spec on it. And then lastly, we're going to have a large warble in the surface, which is the thing I showed you on the flat surface of the truck. So we're going to replicate that. And then I make similar lists for the painted metal and the concrete and the asphalt.